Europa Park, often referred to as Europe's Disneyland, is one of the top amusement parks in the world. Located in the small village of Rust in Germany, this park truly rivals Disney and Universal's best. But how exactly did such a small village come to be home to the largest theme park in Germany? Well, that story started with the father and son duo Franz and Roland Mack, a name that may ring a bell for many, as not only were these men the founders of Europa Park, but they also founded Mack Rides, an attraction manufacturing company responsible for building coasters and dart rides all around the world. Notable examples being Journey to Atlantis at the SeaWorld parks, Goofy's Sky School at Disney's California Adventure, Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City, and many, many more. Mack Rides may get a good amount of respect from coaster enthusiasts, but Franz and Roland Mack feel a bit like unsung heroes to me. At the end of the day, these men were like the Walt Disneys of Europa Park. So what better way to celebrate the Macks than by exploring how they created Europa Park? Let's begin right at the very start, before either Franz or Roland Mack were born. The Mack family business was founded in 1780 by Paul Mack, a wagon maker and great-grandfather to Franz Mack. In 1787, under the guidance of Paul's son, Johann Mack, the company started to build carriages and stagecoaches. Throughout the 1800s, the business continued to grow, and the company began building circus and carnival wagons, which they supplied to companies all across Europe. They also started building many decorative parts for carousels, such as horses, sleighs, and carriages. Then, in 1920, the company started to build its very own rides, including carousels and dodgems, and then their first wooden coaster in 1921, the same year that Franz was born. 15 years later, the company built its first gas-powered train. When World War II broke out in 1939, Franz and his brothers Alfred, Willy, and Hermann were drafted to fight in the war. Sadly, in 1943, Alfred Mack was killed in action. Throughout the war, their father Heinrich was able to keep the company going. Public entertainment was important propaganda for the Third Reich, and it was used to distract from the horrors of the war. Therefore, folk festivals and carnivals were still held, and it was the business from these events that kept the company going. They also built office and housing wagons for the German army. During the conflict, the company employed a small number of French prisoners of war. Positive remarks from these prisoners regarding how they were treated became a major factor in why the company was not dismantled by French authorities after the war. At the end of the war, Franz Mack and his brother Hermann were taken as prisoners of war. In August 1947, they managed to escape from a camp in Alsace by swimming across the Rhine at night. With the help of friends and family, they managed to reach the American zone in the German city of Frankfurt, where they were safe from the French military police. They then hid in the city for a year, living in a wagon owned by the Baumhauser Carnival family and originally made by the Macks. They waited there for roughly a year before returning to Waldkirch and their father's company in 1948 after the currency reform. A year later, Roland Mack was born to loving parents Wiesel and Franz. Roland was born into a world of wagons and fair rides, and as a kid he loved testing out new rides on site after they had been tested using sandbags. Safety first, of course. He would also hide out in the wagons and coaches and enjoy riding around the site in a variety of different vehicles left around the property. At the Mack's dinner table, conversations usually focused on business, and Roland took part from an early age. Roland was confident in his beliefs and did not shy away from confrontations with his father when their opinions differed. These arguments persisted throughout their relationship and became an important method for finding the best solutions to problems. Post-war, circuses and the like became extremely popular, and business boomed. In 1951, the Mack company started exporting internationally, including to the United States. Franz, along with his brothers, took over the company from their father, who died in April 1958. Out of the brothers, Franz quickly became the dominant figure. In the same year, the company moved to more spacious grounds on Maramatten Street on the Eld River in Waldkirch. The Mack family home was built directly behind the production hall on this new site. A year earlier, in 1957, the Mack company had built the first prototype of the later wildly successful Wild Mouse ride. The Mack company never focused on building coasters to break records, but instead they wanted to build rides for the widest possible audience. It is said that one of the major reasons behind this decision was that when Franz Mack saw a giant coaster in the US, He said, "I would never climb up there to assemble that thing myself." On Roland's 12th birthday, instead of receiving a more traditional present like a football or a board game, he was given a technical drawing board. From then on, he was expected to learn how to produce technical drawings and design carousels. At 16, Roland represented the company at his very first trade show. He would also help translate French and English for his father during negotiations. Roland became the first person in the family to attend college, when he studied mechanical engineering in Karlsruhe in 1969. Mack's father was skeptical about what his son would learn at college, and feared he would consider revolutionary ideas like those being discussed at many colleges during the time. However, Karlsruhe was different from colleges in the bigger cities across Europe. And anyway, Roland was never really interested in political ideas. He graduated in 1974, and today Roland says that the most important thing he learned during college was the ability to learn. In 1972, Franz and Roland took a trip to the United States together for the very first time. For 2 weeks, they based themselves in Los Angeles and visited every single theme park they could. Throughout the visit, Roland was desperate to persuade his father to build a park themselves back in Germany. He believed that the park would be a perfect advertisement for the company's very own rides. What Roland didn't know was that Franz had already given thought to such a project. In fact, he had already talked to people in a town called Breisa about purchasing some land surrounding Lake Europe. However, due to the land being on a floodplain for the Rhine River, the authorities refused to sell him the land. The name of the lake, though, would eventually be the inspiration for the park we now love, Europa Park. After the trip, Franz was 100% convinced that they should build their own park, and he began again to actively look for land. Franz's brothers were more skeptical about the idea, but they eventually agreed to the project. Before his death, Franz's father had articles of incorporation drawn up that prevented the brothers from running other businesses or bringing in new partners. These were redrafted to allow for a new partner Franz had found to help with the project of building a theme park. That partner was Otto Timon, a longtime customer of the Mack company, who travelled with a Music Express ride and set up candy stands at the largest fairs and carnivals across Europe. Interestingly, Timon's son went on to found Heide Park, another German theme park located in Lower Saxony, which is now operated by Merlin Entertainments. Quickly, the two began planning the park and agreed on a few key principles. The park must be built near the A5 Autobahn, it must be located in an international corridor, and it shouldn't be built too far away from Waldkirch. The two tried to estimate how many visitors the park could attract by looking at how many people went to the local zoos in Basel and Karlsruhe. Apart from that, they did very little market research. In the early 70s, Franz Mack is quoted as saying, "I've had a look at the world and leisure time is the future." This opinion fortified his belief that an amusement park in Germany could be a success. It was Schlinzer, Franz Mack's father-in-law, who found the land in Rust, a small fishing village on the Rhine River. The land was swampy and surrounded the Balthasar Castle, built in the 15th century. The land was purchased in August 1973. The castle was not a part of the original deal, but was incorporated into the park a few years later. Part of the purchase agreement signed in 1973 included a clause which accorded all citizens of Rust free entry into the park forever. After the land was purchased, the Macks got straight to work. They started by laying 5 kilometers of sewage and water mains. They then built an artificial lake before laying out the park's paths. Construction used up most of the capital raised by the Macks, and Franz even used the family home as collateral to take out an extra loan. The Macks struggled to find investors to help fund the park, as most people did not believe that a theme park would be successful in Germany, due to the cultural norms of the time. It was only friends and family who were willing to carry the risk of investment. Those who invested were promised a portion of the park's earning, and this provided a great deal, as the park was profitable from year one. On the 12th of July 1975, Europa Park opened to the public. Over 1,000 visitors were greeted by Franz and Roland at the entrance. The opening of the park was simple, featuring a brass band and a ribbon-cutting ceremony. The German media was very skeptical of the project, and a headline printed at the time read, "The bankruptcy vulture is hovering over Rust." 1975 was also the year in which Roland married his wife, Marianne. The two had known each other since school, and they celebrated their October wedding in a lakeside restaurant located within the park. Sadly, 3 months after the park opened, Otto died suddenly, aged 46, and now the Macks had to go it alone. In the second season, the park greeted over 700,000 guests. The popularity of the park caused huge traffic jams, which upset the inhabitants of nearby towns. This problem wasn't solved for many years. In 1990, a new autobahn was built to try and help with the issue, but it wasn't until 2002, when a dedicated autobahn exit was opened, that the issue was truly resolved. This exit cost the Macks €7.5 million, plus an extra €5 million to solve a rather unique issue. In the way of construction stood a 43-meter wide antenna, which had been used by German intelligence during the Cold War. This issue was solved by Roland. The 400-ton antenna was moved into the Russian village, where it stood until its removal in 2022. Michael Mack, Roland's first son, was born in 1978. The couple would go on to have 2 more children, Thomas, born in 1981, and Anne-Catherine, born in 1989. In the same year that Michael was born, the family moved into the upper floor of Balthasar Castle. Much inspired by their trips to Disneyland, Roland and Franz knew that the key to a great theme park was immersion. As the Macks were engineers, they knew that to create immersive worlds within the park, they would need a little extra help. A chance meeting with Ulrich Demrau, an architect in his 60s who was working at a trade show held at the park, would provide the solution. Ulrich was quickly hired and he began working on the designs for Little Italy, which opened in 1982, and was the first of the theme country areas that form the Europa Park we love so much today. After Italy came Holland, England, and France, and later in the 90s came Scandinavia, Spain, and the German Avenue. The Alpen Express and the Swiss Bob Run opened in 1984 and 1985 respectively. These were the park's first large coasters. In 1987, the famous Pirates in Batavia attraction opened. Issues during construction, such as both Franz Mack and Demrau falling down a hole, led the team to speak of the Pirates' Curse. Tragically, this curse would strike again on the 26th of May 2018. A fire broke out in the park, and the ride was completely destroyed. In the aftermath of the disaster, the family took very little time in deciding that the ride must be rebuilt. 2 years later, this new version reopened. Pirates in Batavia was given a more cohesive storyline than before, and today it features 125 animated figures, including 8 that were rescued from the queue line of the original attraction. The ride utilizes state-of-the-art technology and is now, quite honestly, one of the best dark rides in the world. Those who have ridden the attraction may have even spotted that an animatronic of Roland Mack himself is hidden within. The opening of Disneyland Paris in 1992 was viewed by the Macks as major competition, with Paris being only a 4-hour drive from Europa Park. During the same period, Roland Mack began to notice an increase in the number of guests staying overnight in Rust. He was also aware that numerous parks in America were starting to build their very own on-site hotels, and Roland became convinced that Europa Park needed its own hotel, and believed this would be a great way of combating the new competition in Paris. Franz Mack was more skeptical, and thought a hotel strayed too far from the family's expertise. After much debate, they concluded that the best way to build an on-site hotel would be to partner with an established hotel chain. However, much like their earlier struggles to find investors in the 1970s, no chain agreed to partner with them. Yet again, the family had to go it alone. The first hotel to open was El Andalou, located in the Spanish-themed section of the park. One night during the design stage, Franz Mack, still skeptical of the project, decided to intervene in an unusual way. At the time, the hotel was designed to have 4 floors. That night, Franz grabbed a razor blade, walked over to the hotel drawings, and cut off the 4. He then carefully placed the roof on top of the 3rd floor, and in 1995, the hotel opened with 3 floors. Needless to say, just like the park itself, this hotel was a success, and today the park operates 6 incredibly successful hotels. During the 80s and 90s, the number of operating fairs and carnivals declined drastically, and this badly impacted the Mack company in Waldkirch. The company only really survived those years because of the business coming directly from Europa Park itself. During this 20-year period, the park built several new Mack coasters, including Eurosat, Euromir, and the Matterhorn Blitz. A further problem arose in the 1990s. As coaster design and manufacturing started to change rapidly, the Mack company struggled to keep pace with the evolving industry and could no longer maintain its top market position. In the late 90s, the company slightly altered its business and started to focus on water rides. And in 2000, they built Poseidon, a Mack water coaster. This model was very successful and sold all over the world, but this level of specialization was not sustainable. In 2002, Europa Park opened its very first non-Mack coaster, which was Silver Star, a Bolliger and Mabillard hypercoaster. This frustrated those working at the company in Valkirch, but to this day, Roland says it needed to be built with world-class technology, and in Valkirch, we just weren't ready for it. The lack of focus on the Valkirch company came to a head in April 2005, when the whole family attended a crucial meeting to try and figure out a way to save the company. They were determined not to lose over 200 years of family history. After the meeting, the family got to work. They sold off failing parts of the company, made cost-saving layoffs, and started investing in new technology. Roland's son, Michael, played a key role in trying to modernize the struggling company. By 2009, the company was in a position to build Europa Park's next big coaster, Blue Fire. The success of Blue Fire put the company back on the map when it came to coaster manufacturing. This model, the Mack launch coaster, has since been sold all around the world. In fact, an exact replica of Blue Fire was built in Dubai at IMG World of Adventure. Sadly, in 2010, Franz Mack died aged 89. By then, Roland's sons were heavily involved in managing the park and the hotels. The result of their involvement can be seen today in attractions such as Wodan and Arthur, and in the creation of Mack Media, established by Michael Mack in 2002. In late 2011, Roland Mack was chosen as the new president of IAPA, the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. During his year as president, his main focus was the establishment of international safety standards, a task he's still involved with today. Roland Mack has always said that the goal in managing Europa Park is to increase quality, not profits. Europa Park is one of the few theme parks that remains family-owned. The park has a face, Roland, and a passionate family at its helm, with their own story woven into the very fabric of the park. This has allowed Europa Park to remain friendly, personal, and authentic, during a time when many parks have been bought out by large corporations and struggled to maintain such authenticity. Europa Park is the Mack family, and the Mack family is Europa Park. In 2013, while on a rare holiday, Roland Mack had an accident in which he broke 17 ribs. While in hospital, then German Chancellor Angela Merkel announced she would be visiting the park in a few days. Upon hearing this, Roland signed his own release papers and returned home to greet the Chancellor on the day of her visit. Roland believes that his unconditional commitment to the park is key to motivating his employees, and that a boss should not demand anything of others that he wouldn't do himself. Roland Mack believes that employees give their best when the boss is present. He demands passion and hard work, values clearly reflected in the incredible efficiency of park operations. The Mack family had long discussed building a second gate in Rust. They knew it would help Europa Park become a fully fledged multi-day holiday destination, but they also knew it would be their biggest project since opening the park in 1975. Guest feedback had long shown that water rides were among the most beloved attractions, and Roland Mack had often thought about building a water park. Once again, the family, led by Roland, went for it. And on the 28th of November 2019, Rulantica opened. At a cost of €180 million, this mainly indoor water park located next to Europa Park featured 17 rides and focused as much on relaxation as on adrenaline. The park was an absolute hit. In 2022, the resort surpassed the threshold of 6 million visitors for the first time, largely thanks to the addition of this new water park. Since then, the park has showed no signs of slowing down. 2022 saw the opening of a new restaurant experience called Adrenaline, an attraction and dining experience unlike anything else in the world. And in 2024, the park opened a brand new Croatia-themed area home to the new roller coaster Voltron. Roland Mack has certainly had a fantastic career as founder of one of the greatest theme parks in the world, but his story is not over yet. In April 2023, Roland Mack received the coveted TEA Thea Award from the Themed Entertainment Association, and the Europa Park boss was honoured with the Buzz Prize Award for his life's work as an outstanding entrepreneur and for his great commitment to the industry. Personally, I hope Roland continues to lead Europa Park into the future for many more years to come. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other videos and the links in the description, and let me know in the comments what you love most about Europa Park.